By day 120, I had everything under control. Oxygen stable, food growing, water recycled, power systems repaired. I was alone, but I was alive. Floating above Earth, I told myself the worst part was over. Then came day 121. I checked the external camera feed, and something was standing outside the station. But nothing should survive space. The docking procedure should have been routine. I had done simulations dozens of times before launch, but nothing prepares you for the silence of orbit. No wind, no gravity pulling you down. Just endless black space pressing in from all directions. When the docking clamps locked onto the station, there was a deep metallic vibration that traveled through my suit. It felt like the station was acknowledging me. Like it knew I had arrived. The airlock cycled slowly. Inside, the door opened into darkness. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridor, casting long red shadows that drifted with floating dust particles. Everything was weightless. Even the silence felt heavy. I checked my oxygen readout. Stable. I checked power systems. Minimal, but active. That meant something important. The station wasn't completely dead. I floated forward, pushing myself gently through the corridor. My boots occasionally touched panels, sending small vibrations through the structure. There were signs of life once here. Personal items still attached to walls. A floating mug drifting slowly through the hallway. A name tag spinning in midair. Crew manifest showed 12 astronauts assigned to this station. But there were no bodies. No evacuation logs. No distress signals. Only silence. I reached the main control module and secured myself into the operator seat. Screens flickered on one by one, like they were waking up after a long sleep. Systems report. Life support. Partial. Power. 38%. Communication. Offline. Crew status. Unknown. Unknown. That word stuck with me longer than it should have. I tried opening communication channels immediately. No response. Not even static from Earth. Just emptiness. I made my first decision. Stabilize power. If I was going to survive here alone, I needed systems working. So I suited up again and prepared for my first EVA outside the station. Before leaving, I looked through the viewport at Earth below. It looked peaceful, too peaceful, like nothing was wrong at all. I told myself I was just early. That the others were gone temporarily. That rescue was coming. But as I pushed myself out into the airlock and the hatch sealed behind me, I had the first feeling I couldn't explain. Not fear, not panic, just the quiet certainty that I was not the first person to notice something was wrong here. By day 30, I had learned one thing about the station. It didn't like being dead. Every system I brought back online seemed to resist at first. Power relays flickered before stabilizing. Air circulation groaned like something waking up after years of sleep. Even the lighting didn't just turn on. It pulsed, like a heartbeat trying to find rhythm again. But power was still my biggest problem. 38% wasn't enough to sustain long-term survival. Not for life support, not for hydroponics, and definitely not for communications. If I wanted any chance of getting a signal back to Earth, or even just staying alive, I needed the solar arrays fully operational. That meant going outside. I suited up slowly this time, checking every seal twice. The first EVA had been controlled, almost calm. This one felt different, heavier. The airlock cycled, pressure dropping in stages until the final hiss released me into open space. There's something no simulation prepares you for. The moment you leave the station. Inside, even in silence, there's structure. Walls, corners. A sense of direction. Outside, there's nothing. No up, no down. Just you, tethered to a machine floating in infinite darkness. Earth stretched beneath me, glowing blue and white, impossibly far away. I pushed off gently, guiding myself along the hull toward the solar arrays. The panels were worse than I expected. Microfractures across their surfaces, entire sections misaligned or completely offline. Micrometeor damage, old, but not ancient. I anchored myself and began repairs. Slow work, precise, every movement deliberate. One mistake out here and there's no recovery. Time passed differently in space. Minutes stretched, Sounds were reduced to the faint hum of my suit and the occasional metallic vibration through my gloves as I worked. Then I felt it. A vibration. Not from my tools. Not from the panels. From the station itself. I froze. At first, I thought it was structural stress, thermal expansion, maybe. The station heating under sunlight. That was normal. But this wasn't random. It was rhythmic. A low, steady pulse traveling through the hull. Like something moving inside it. I pressed my glove against the metal surface. There it was again. A faint, repeating thud. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just consistent. I checked my suit diagnostics. No anomalies. No external impacts. Nothing in the logs. Still, I stayed there, holding on to the hull, listening through my suit like I was trying to hear a heartbeat through layers of steel. After a while, it stopped. Just like that, silence returned. The kind of silence that makes you question if you imagined everything. I shook it off and continued repairs. Panel by panel, I brought sections back online. Power readings slowly climbed. 42%, 45%, 51%. Progress. By the time I finished, the station looked almost alive again. Panels angled properly toward the sun, energy flowing back into the grid. I made my way back toward the airlock, moving carefully along the exterior. And that's when I saw something that didn't make sense. A mark on the hull. Not impact damage, not wear. A long, thin scrape. Fresh. It hadn't been there during my first EVA. I stared at it for a long moment, trying to rationalize it. Maybe debris. Maybe I missed it before. That had to be it. Because the alternative didn't make sense. I entered the airlock and sealed it behind me. As pressure returned and the helmet came off, the first real feeling hit me. Not fear. Not yet. Just unease. The kind that settles quietly in the back of your mind. The kind that doesn't go away. Because deep down, I knew something important. Space doesn't leave fresh marks on metal. By day 60, I had stopped expecting contact from Earth. At first, I checked communications every few hours. Then once a day. Then, only when I remembered. Nothing ever came back. No signal. No static. Not even background noise. Just silence. So I focused on what I could control. Power was stable now, hovering around 60% after the solar repairs. Life support systems were holding, though they needed constant adjustments. I had even managed to bring a small section of the hydroponics bay back online. It wasn't much, just a few trays of basic crops, but it was enough to prove something important. I could survive here, alone. That thought should have been reassuring. Instead, it made the station feel even bigger, even emptier. That's when I decided to dig deeper into the station's systems. If I couldn't reach Earth, maybe I could understand what happened here. The main data core was located in a secured section near the central ring. Access required manual override, since most of the automated systems were still unreliable. The door resisted at first. Not mechanically. Everything responded exactly as expected. But it felt like something was delaying. A half-second pause between command and response. Like the station was thinking. I forced the thought out of my head and focused on the task. The door opened. Inside, the air felt colder. Not physically colder. My suit sensors showed normal temperature, but there was a stillness to it. A kind of dead air that hadn't been disturbed in a long time. I secured myself at the central terminal and powered up the system. Screens flickered, data streams initializing slowly. Crew manifest appeared first. 12 names, 12 profiles, all marked as active, until the same day. No individual logs of departure. No emergency evacuation. Just a single point in time where everything stopped. That didn't make sense. Even in worst-case scenarios, protocols require logs. Automatic recordings. Something. Here, there was nothing. I accessed personal logs next. Corrupted. Large sections missing. Some entries played partially. Short fragments of audio or text before cutting off abruptly. One of them caught my attention. The voice was distorted, but still human. We sealed the section. It shouldn't. Static. Another log. He was outside. I saw him, but he's already cut off again. I felt a tightness in my chest. Not from lack of oxygen. From something else. I checked timestamps. All logs ended within minutes of each other. Like something happened all at once. Then I noticed something that didn't match. A gap. Not just missing data. Removed data. There was a sequence in the system where files should exist, but didn't. Cleanly erased. Not corrupted. Not damaged. Deleted. Deliberately. I tried to recover them. Nothing. Like they were never there. That's when the system froze. Completely. Screens locked. Input unresponsive. For a moment, I thought I had triggered a failure. Then, the display changed. Not a reboot. Not an error. A single line of text appeared. Access restricted. I hadn't entered any restricted command. I hadn't tried to override anything beyond standard protocols. Slowly, the system resumed normal function. Like nothing happened. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the screen. Then I checked something I hadn't thought about before. Internal access logs. Every system interaction is recorded. Who accessed what, and when. There should have been only one user. Me. There wasn't. There were multiple entries. Recent ones. Commands executed across different sections of the station. Doors opened. Systems adjusted. Logs accessed. All within the last few days. All under a user ID that didn't exist in the crew manifest. No name. No clearance level. Just a blank identifier. I felt that quiet unease again. Stronger now. Heavier. Because this time, there was no simple explanation. Systems don't operate themselves. And I hadn't been to those sections. Which meant one thing. Something, or someone, else was using the station. And whatever it was, it knew how everything worked. By day 90, I stopped moving freely through the station. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't trust it anymore. I had created routines, tight, controlled paths between essential areas. Control room, hydroponics, life support, storage. I avoided everything else unless absolutely necessary. Not out of fear. That's what I told myself. Just efficiency. But the truth was simpler. The less I explored, the less I had to see. The station felt different now. Not dead. Not broken. Occupied. It started with the cameras. At first, I only used them to monitor systems remotely, check doors, verify pressure levels, make sure no sections were losing oxygen. It was faster than moving through the station manually. Safer, too. One cycle through the feeds took about 15 minutes. Every corridor, every junction, every access point, always empty. Until it wasn't. I remember the exact moment. Camera 7. Mid-ring corridor. I had just checked it minutes earlier. Clear. No movement. I cycled back through the feeds again, more out of habit than concern. And there it was. Something blocking part of the corridor. Not fully visible. Just a shape. Dark. Still. Floating slightly above the floor, like everything else in zero gravity. I froze. My hand hovered over the controls, unsure whether to zoom in or switch feeds. I chose to zoom. The image distorted slightly as the system adjusted focus. The shape didn't move, didn't react, just stayed there. For a second, maybe less, I thought it was debris. Something loose that drifted into frame. But debris doesn't hold position like that. It drifts, slowly, unpredictably. This didn't drift. It hovered, like it was waiting. I cut the feed. Instinct. Immediate. Like looking away would make it disappear. I forced myself to breathe slowly, steadying my thoughts. Then I switched back. The corridor was empty. Completely clear. No shape. No debris. Nothing. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Waiting. Expecting it to come back. It didn't. That should have been the end of it. A glitch. A visual error. Something explainable. But it wasn't. Because things started moving. Small things at first. A tool I left near the control panel drifting a few centimeters from where I placed it. A hatch that was fully sealed showing as partially open on the system display, even though I hadn't touched it. Then the sound started again. Not through the structure this time. Closer. Inside the station. Faint scraping noises, like something brushing lightly against the walls. Sometimes above me, sometimes below, always just out of sight. I began checking every room before entering. Every time. No exceptions. Open the door slowly. Pause. Look. Listen. Then move. I told myself it was precaution. Standard protocol. But protocols don't make your hands tighten every time a door opens. They don't make you hold your breath while you wait for something to move on the other side. The worst part wasn't seeing something. It was almost seeing it. Catching movement in reflections. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. A shift in the corner of your vision that disappears the moment you turn your head. Your mind tries to fill in the gaps. Tries to make sense of incomplete information. But there was no sense to make. Because whatever was happening here didn't follow normal rules. That night, if you can even call it night in orbit, I stayed in the control room. Strapped in, lights on, cameras running. I watched every feed, every corridor, every corner of the station. Hours passed, nothing moved, nothing appeared, and slowly, the tension started to fade. Maybe it really was nothing. A glitch, stress, isolation. I almost believed that, until I noticed something I hadn't seen before. One of the cameras was pointed directly at me. Not physically. The camera hadn't moved, but the angle, the framing, it wasn't showing the room. It was centered on my position. Like something had adjusted it. Like something was watching. By day 140, I wasn't questioning it anymore. Something was on the station. Not a glitch, not stress, not isolation, something real, and it was getting closer. I had tightened my routines even further. Every movement was planned. Every section I entered was checked twice, once on camera, once in person. I kept tools within reach at all times, even when I slept. Sleep, if you can call it that. Short bursts, never deep, always half aware, like part of me was waiting for something to happen. And then it did. The alarm didn't sound like the others. Not a system fluctuation, not a minor warning. This was sharp, immediate. Airlock pressure warning. My body reacted before my mind caught up. I pushed off the control seat and moved fast through the corridor, my hands grabbing rails, pulling myself forward with controlled force. The display in my visor repeated the alert. Airlock 3 pressure drop detected. That didn't make sense. All external hatches were sealed. I had personally verified them. I reached the section and slowed down just before the final turn. Training. Instinct. Never rush into an unknown space. I stopped at the corner, steadying myself against the wall. My breathing sounded louder than usual inside the helmet, even though I wasn't wearing the suit yet. That alone was enough to unsettle me. I leaned forward slightly and looked. The airlock door was closed. Fully sealed. No visible damage. No sign of forced entry. But the system display on the wall beside it flickered. Internal pressure unstable. Internal, not external. I moved closer. Carefully. Every small motion controlled. Quiet. I placed my hand on the panel and initiated a manual diagnostic. The screen hesitated. That half-second delay again. Then it responded. Access log. Recent entry. I froze. Recent. I hadn't been here in 2 days. I checked the timestamp. Minutes ago. My chest tightened. That quiet unease from before, it wasn't quiet anymore. It was sharp. Focused. Real. I slowly reached for the manual override. If something was inside, opening the door could be the worst decision I could make. But leaving it unchecked, that wasn't an option either. I triggered the override. The door unlocked with a heavy mechanical click. Then slowly, it opened. The interior of the airlock was dim, lit only by emergency strips along the floor. Empty. No suit. No debris. No sign of anything. Just condensation floating in the air. Tiny droplets suspended in zero gravity. I exhaled slowly. Nothing there. Just like before. Just like the camera. I almost laughed. A dry, empty sound that didn't feel like mine. Then I saw it. Footprints. Not on the floor. Floating. Disturbances in the condensation. Patterns. Like something had moved through the air, displacing the moisture, leaving a trail. A path. From the inner hatch to where I was standing. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't think. Because my brain was trying to process something impossible. Whatever had entered this airlock had come from inside the station. Not outside. And it had just passed through here. Recently. Very recently. I slowly turned my head toward the corridor behind me. The one I had just come through. The one I hadn't checked this time. For the first time since arriving. I realized something critical. I had been checking rooms before entering them. But I never checked behind me after leaving. And if something was moving through the station, following routines, learning patterns, then it didn't need to hide. It just needed to wait. Wait for the moment I stopped looking. The condensation in the airlock shifted slightly. Not drifting, not random. Something moved through it, soft, slow, close. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Because deep down, I already knew. I wasn't alone in the corridor anymore. I didn't turn around. Every instinct told me to, but something deeper held me in place. If I turned and saw it, then it would be real in a way I couldn't undo. So I stayed still, floating just outside the airlock, staring at the condensation slowly drifting in front of me, pretending nothing was there. Seconds passed, or minutes. In space, time loses meaning when fear takes over. Then, a sound. Behind me, soft, like fabric brushing against metal. Not loud, not aggressive, close, too close. My fingers tightened around the handrail. I forced myself to breathe slowly, evenly, like I was still in control. Another sound, a faint dragging, then a light tap. Something touching the wall. I moved, fast, not panicked, controlled, but fast enough to put distance between me and whatever was behind me. I pushed off hard, gliding through the corridor toward the main junction. I didn't look back, not once. I reached the junction and grabbed onto the central rail, stopping myself abruptly. My body turned slightly from the momentum, giving me a view down the corridor I had just come from. Empty, of course, just like every other time. I stayed there, watching, waiting. Nothing moved, no sound, no shape, no sign of anything. Slowly, I told myself the same lie again. You imagined it. Stress, isolation, lack of sleep. But this time, the lie didn't stick. Because I could still feel it. That presence. Not behind me anymore. Somewhere else. In the station. Moving. That's when the sounds started to change. Before, they were distant. Random. Easy to ignore if I focused on something else. Now they were structured. Intentional. I heard movement in the ventilation system. Slow, uneven scraping, like something dragging itself through tight spaces. Then a hollow knock from the ceiling. Then silence. Then another knock. Closer. It wasn't random anymore. It was moving between sections. Mapping. Following. Me. I pushed off toward the control room, locking doors behind me as I passed through each section. The system responded slowly, like always, but this time I watched every door until it sealed completely. No shortcuts. No assumptions. Inside the control room, I secured myself and activated all camera feeds. Every corridor, every junction, every access point, the screens lit up around me. Empty. All of them. I watched for a long time. Too long. My eyes started to burn, but I didn't look away. Because I knew the moment I did, I might miss it. And then it happened. Not on the main screens. On a secondary feed. Ventilation camera. Low resolution. Narrow angle. Easy to ignore. At first, I thought it was just shadow. Then it moved. Slowly. Something long and thin sliding through the vent, just barely visible as it passed across the frame. Not floating. Crawling. Against the airflow. Against physics. I leaned closer to the screen. The image flickered. For a split second, I saw more of it. Not a full shape. Just fragments. Edges. Movement that didn't align with anything human. Then the feed cut. Black. I switched to another camera. Nothing. Another. Nothing. It was gone. Or it had moved somewhere I couldn't see. I sat back slowly, every muscle tense. And that's when I realized something worse than anything I had seen so far. The station wasn't just occupied. It was connected. Every corridor, every vent, every system, and whatever was inside, could move through all of it. Faster than me, quieter than me, and now, it wasn't just hiding anymore. It was following, learning my routes, my habits, my safe places. I looked around the control room. For the first time since arriving, it didn't feel safe, because if it could move through the station, then there was nowhere it couldn't reach. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized, and from somewhere above me, I heard it again, a soft, deliberate knock, directly over my head. By day 180, I had stopped trying to understand it. Understanding requires logic, patterns, cause and effect. There was none of that here. Only one rule remained: stay alive. Everything else didn't matter anymore. I changed how I moved through the station. No more fixed routines. No predictable paths. I doubled back, paused randomly, checked behind me constantly. If something was learning me, I needed to become unpredictable. But it didn't seem to matter. Because no matter what I changed, it was always close. The sounds never stopped now. Sometimes distant, echoing through metal corridors. Sometimes right on the other side of a wall. Sometimes inside the walls themselves. Always moving, always adjusting, like it knew exactly where I was. That's why I avoided Storage Bay 4 for as long as I could. It was too far from the control room. Too many blind corridors. Too many vents. But supplies were running low. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. I prepared carefully. Suit on. Lights at full intensity. Tools secured. One hand always free. I opened the door slowly. Paused. Listened. Nothing. Just silence. I moved in. Storage Bay 4 was larger than I remembered. Wide, open, filled with containers strapped to walls and ceiling. Some had broken loose, drifting slowly in place. The air felt heavier here. Still, like it hadn't been disturbed in a long time. I pushed deeper inside, scanning every corner, every shadow. Nothing moved. No sound. No sign of it. For a moment, I thought maybe this section was untouched. Forgotten. Safe. Then my light passed over something that didn't belong. A suit, floating near the far end of the bay. Station issued. Tether line still attached to the wall. I froze. That suit wasn't in the manifest. I knew every listed piece of equipment. Every item had been accounted for. This wasn't. Slowly, I moved closer. Each movement controlled, careful. The suit rotated slightly as I approached, responding to the small currents of air my movement created. The visor was facing away at first. I reached out and stopped it gently. Turned it. The helmet came into view. And I felt something tighten in my chest. The visor was scratched. Not from outside. From the inside. Deep marks. Repeated. Like someone had tried to claw their way out. I pulled my hand back instinctively. For a moment, I just stared at it. Trying to process what I was seeing. A suit is sealed. Reinforced. Nothing inside should be able to damage it like that. Unless something was trapped inside, or trying to get out. I forced myself to move again. Carefully, I checked the suit's status panel. Power. Dead. Life support. Offline. No signal. No identification. It was like it didn't exist in the system. Like it had been removed, but not physically taken away. My light shifted slightly, and that's when I saw the tether. It wasn't intact. It had been cut. Clean. Not torn. Not broken under stress. Cut. Which meant one thing. Whoever wore that suit didn't drift out into space. They were here. Inside the station. With me. I backed away slowly. Eyes locked on the suit. Waiting for it to move. For something to happen. But it stayed still. Silent. Empty. Just like everything else. I turned to leave. Careful. Slow. Not rushing. Because rushing leads to mistakes. And mistakes get you killed. I reached the door and stopped. Just for a second. One last look back. The suit was still there. Floating in the same position. Unchanged. I exhaled slowly. Then the light flickered. Just once. When it stabilized, the suit was gone. Not moved. Gone. Completely. No drift. No rotation. No trace. Just empty space where it had been. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. I pushed out of the bay and sealed the door behind me. Locked it. Then locked it again manually. My hands were steady, but my thoughts weren't. Because now I knew something I couldn't ignore anymore. This wasn't just something moving through the station. It was something that could take things. Remove them. Hide them. Or worse, use them. And somewhere in the station, that suit was no longer empty. By day 200, I stopped trusting the clocks. At first, it was small things. A task that should take 10 minutes felt like 30. A system check that usually cycled quickly seemed to drag on. But in space, that's normal. Without day and night, your body loses rhythm. Time stretches, compresses, distorts. That's what I told myself. Until the logs stopped matching my memory. I noticed it in the control system first. Routine maintenance entries, things I knew I had done, were logged at times that didn't make sense. Hours earlier, sometimes hours later. At first, I assumed system error. Corrupted timestamps, another failing component in a station full of them. But then it happened again. And again. Until I couldn't ignore it. I started tracking everything manually. Writing it down. Physical notes attached to the console. Time, task, location. Something I could verify without relying on the system. For a while, it worked. Everything matched. Everything stayed consistent. I started to relax slightly. Maybe it really was just faulty logs. Maybe. Then I found the first gap. I remember sitting in the control room. Checking oxygen levels. Adjusting flow rates. Routine work. Calm. Focused. The next thing I remember. I was in the hydroponics bay. Floating near the far wall. Holding a tool I didn't remember picking up. My notes were still in the control room. The time display in my visor showed a difference of 2 hours. 2 hours. Gone. Just like that. No transition. No memory. No explanation. I checked myself immediately. Vitals normal. No injury. No sign of disorientation beyond the confusion itself. I pushed off and moved back to the control room as fast as I could. The notes were still there. Exactly where I left them. But there was something new. A line I didn't write. Same handwriting. Same pen. Same surface. But not mine. It read, "You went too far." I stared at it for a long time. Trying to convince myself I had written it and just didn't remember. But that didn't make sense. I would remember writing something like that. Wouldn't I? I checked the cameras. Scrolled back through the footage. Timestamp matched the missing gap. The control room feed showed me. Sitting exactly where I remembered. Adjusting systems. Then, I stopped moving. Completely still. For several minutes. No motion. No reaction. Just frozen. Then slowly, I turned my head. Not toward any screen. Not toward any system. Toward the camera. Directly at it. I felt my stomach tighten. Because I don't remember doing that. Not even slightly. On the screen, I watched myself stare into the camera for nearly a full minute. No blinking. No movement. Then I stood up. Calm. Controlled. And left the room. The feed tracked me through the corridor. Past junctions I avoid. Through sections I sealed. Moving without hesitation. Like I knew exactly where I was going. Then the feed cut. Not glitched. Not lost signal. Cut. Clean. The next available footage was me returning to the control room. 2 hours later. Back to normal. Continuing tasks like nothing happened. I sat there, staring at the screens. At myself. Trying to understand something I couldn't explain. There are only a few possibilities when time disappears. You black out. You lose consciousness. Or something interrupts your awareness. But I hadn't collapsed. I hadn't shown signs of distress. I had moved, acted, functioned, just not as myself. And the worst part wasn't the missing time. It wasn't the message. It wasn't even watching myself act without memory. It was something much simpler. Something much more dangerous. During those 2 hours, I had gone somewhere in the station. Somewhere I don't go. Somewhere I avoid. And now, I didn't know what I had seen there. Or what had seen me. By day 240, I trusted one thing above everything else. The light. As long as the station had power, I had visibility. Cameras, systems, warnings, a way to see what was coming before it reached me. Light meant control, and control meant survival. So when the power dropped, everything changed. It didn't happen all at once. At first, it was a fluctuation. A small dip in the system. Nothing unusual. I had seen it before. Temporary inconsistencies in the solar arrays, minor load imbalances. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. I checked the system readouts. Power at 62%. Stable, or so it seemed. Then the second drop came. Harder, faster. Lights dimmed across multiple sections. Displays flickered. Some systems went offline completely before recovering seconds later. I pushed off toward the control console, pulling myself in tight and locking into position. Diagnostics. Now. Power grid overview filled the main screen. And that's when I saw it. The loss wasn't external. Not the panels. Not the storage systems. The drain was internal. Something inside the station was pulling power massively from multiple sections at once. That wasn't possible. Not without triggering system overrides. Not without leaving a clear signature. But the readings were real. Power dropping, section by section, like something was activating systems faster than I could track. Then everything went dark. Total blackout. No warning. No transition. Just nothing. In space, darkness isn't like night. There's no ambient light, no reflection, no horizon. It's absolute, complete, disorienting. For a moment, I couldn't even tell which way I was facing. My breathing sounded too loud in the silence. I forced myself to stay still. Panicking in zero gravity is how you lose orientation. How you lose control. How you die. Seconds passed. Then emergency lights kicked in. Dim red strips along the walls. Barely enough to see shapes. Not enough to feel safe. Systems began rebooting slowly. Partial power restored. Not enough for full functionality. Cameras offline. External sensors offline. Only internal basics. I was blind. Completely blind. I reached for the handheld light attached to my suit and switched it on. A narrow beam cut through the darkness. Sharp. Focused. Isolating. It made everything worse, because now I could only see what was directly in front of me. Everything else remained hidden. I rotated slowly, scanning the control room. Nothing moved, nothing visible, but the station didn't feel empty anymore. Not even close. It felt active, like something had just woken up. The system display flickered back to life behind me. I turned toward it. Power levels. 27%. Critical. Then another reading appeared. Not system generated. Not formatted like the others. Just raw data. Spiking. Moving. Across internal sections. Tracking something. Something that was moving through the station. Fast. Faster than before. Jumping between sections. No pattern. No logic. Then it stopped. One location. Highlighted. I didn't recognize the section at first. Not from my normal routes. Not from maintenance areas. But the label was clear. Control module. My chest tightened. That was me. My location. It wasn't just moving randomly. It had found me. The lights flickered again. Dimmed. Came back weaker. My handheld beam shook slightly as my grip tightened. And then, something passed through the edge of the light. Not fully visible. Just a distortion. A movement that blocked the beam for less than a second. Close. Very close. I snapped the light toward it. Nothing there. Empty space. But I knew what I saw. Something had been between me and the wall. Something solid enough to block light. Something that didn't belong. I backed away slowly, keeping the beam moving, scanning every angle. Trying to create space. Trying to see. The system behind me flickered again. Then went dark. Emergency lights dimmed further. Almost gone now. Only my handheld light remained. One narrow beam in total darkness. Then, a sound. Right behind me. Not in the walls. Not in the vents. In the room. A slow, measured breath. By day 280, I stopped trusting space. Then I stopped trusting the station. Now, I couldn't even trust direction. After the blackout, power never fully recovered. Systems came back in fragments. Life support, partial lighting, limited controls, but nothing stayed stable for long. The station wasn't just damaged anymore. It was inconsistent. Rooms that had power minutes ago would go dark without warning. Doors would respond slowly, or not at all. Entire sections seemed to drop off the internal map, then reappear later like nothing happened. At first, I thought it was just system failure. Cascading errors. A dying structure barely holding itself together. But then I started noticing something worse. The layout didn't match anymore. It began subtly. A corridor that felt longer than it should be. A junction that took an extra turn to reach. At first, I blamed memory. Stress does that. Isolation makes your mind unreliable. But I started marking paths. Physical marks. Scratches on the walls. Tape strips at intersections. Simple, clear indicators so I wouldn't get turned around. It worked. For a while. Until the marks stopped matching. I remember the first time clearly. I was moving from the control module toward life support. A route I had taken dozens of times. Straight corridor, left turn, short passage, door, simple. I pushed forward, following the marks I had placed earlier. The first two were there. Exactly where they should be. Then the third was missing. I slowed, checked the wall again. No mark. That didn't make sense. I knew I had placed one there. I always did. Same height, same position, no variation. I turned back slightly, checking behind me. The previous marks were still there. Correct, unchanged. So I continued forward. Maybe I had skipped that section earlier. Maybe. The corridor didn't end. It should have. There was a door at the end of this passage. There had always been a door. But now, the corridor just continued. Same structure, same lighting, same design, just longer. I stopped moving, floating there, staring down a passage that shouldn't exist. Every instinct told me to turn back, to return to a known section, to stay within the areas I understood. But something else held me there. Not curiosity, not exactly, more like pressure, like the station itself was pushing me forward. I forced myself to move, slowly, one hand along the wall, tracking position, counting distance, 10 meters, 20, 30, still no door, still no junction, just the same corridor repeating. Then I saw it, a mark on the wall. My mark, same height, same pattern, but I hadn't been here before. That mark should have been behind me. I turned around instantly. The corridor behind me was different, not completely, just enough. The lighting slightly dimmer, the spacing between panels off by a few centimeters. Small details, but wrong, completely wrong. I felt something shift inside me. Not fear, not panic, something deeper. The realization that I had lost something fundamental. Orientation, direction, reality. I pushed back the way I came. Faster now. No more slow movement. No more careful pacing. I needed to get out. Needed to find something that made sense. Then the corridor changed again. Not gradually, not subtly. One moment it was there. The next, a wall, solid, blocking the path I had just come from. I stopped hard, grabbing onto a panel to keep from drifting into it. That wasn't possible. There are no moving walls in this station. No dynamic structures. Everything is fixed, permanent. But this wasn't. I turned again, heart rate rising. The path ahead still stretched forward. Unchanged, endless, and somewhere in that silence, I heard it, not in the walls, not in the vents, right there in the corridor. A soft sound, like something shifting its position. Waiting, watching, because now it didn't need to follow me. It didn't need to track me through systems. The station itself was trapping me, and whatever was inside it was guiding the path. By day 320, I stopped trying to escape the station. Because I understood something I should have realized earlier. There was no outside anymore. Not in the way I thought. The station wasn't just broken. It wasn't just changing. It was controlled. Paths didn't lead where they should. Doors didn't open when they were supposed to. Systems responded, but not always to me. So I did the only thing left. I stayed in one place. The control module. If anything still made sense, it would be here. If anything still connected to reality, it had to be here. Power was unstable, but barely holding. Enough to run basic systems. Enough to keep one thing alive. Communications. For the first time in weeks, I focused entirely on the signal array. Manual calibration. Frequency sweeps. Signal amplification. If Earth was still out there. If anything was still out there. I needed to reach it. Hours passed, maybe longer. Time didn't matter anymore, only the signal did. Static filled the speakers. Low, constant noise, not silence. That alone felt like progress. I adjusted the frequency again. Narrowed the band, boosted output. The static shifted, changed pitch, formed patterns. I froze. Not random, not interference. Structured, repeating. I leaned closer to the console. Listening. Trying to isolate the pattern. It wasn't a voice, not at first, just pulses, rhythmic, deliberate, like something was trying to form language. I recorded it, played it back, slowed it down, ran it through filters, and slowly, the pattern changed. The static became sound. Not clear, not human, but close enough. Fragments, broken pieces of something familiar. Then I heard it, a word, distorted, dragged through layers of interference. But recognizable. My name. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just listened. The signal repeated, stronger this time, more defined. Then more words followed, not clear sentences, not yet, just pieces. Stay, don't, turn. The audio glitched, cut, returned. Then, a voice, clear, perfect, mine. Don't look behind you. Every muscle in my body locked. I hadn't spoken, I hadn't recorded that, but it was my voice. Exact, every tone, every inflection, perfect. The console flickered, the signal spiked, then changed again. The voice continued, still mine, still wrong. You're almost there. I pulled back slowly from the console, my mind trying to catch up, trying to find any explanation. A recording, a playback error, a system loop, anything. But I knew it wasn't that. Because I had never said those words. And the signal wasn't coming from Earth. I checked the source. Signal origin. Internal. Inside the station. Not transmitted. Generated. From somewhere within. The speakers crackled again. The voice returned. Softer now. Closer. Not through the system. Through the room. Turn around. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because I understood something in that moment. Something absolute. If I turned around, I would see it. Not a shadow. Not a reflection. Not a glitch. It, fully, right there, behind me. The console lights dimmed. The signal flatlined. Silence returned. But the feeling didn't. That presence. Close. Closer than ever before. Waiting. Not hiding anymore. Not chasing. Just waiting. For me to make the choice. To look. To confirm. To understand. Slowly, I closed my eyes. Because as long as I didn't see it, there was still one thing left. Doubt. And doubt was the only thing keeping me alive. By day 350, I wasn't trying to survive anymore. I was trying to understand. Because survival only works when the rules stay the same. And here, the rules had changed a long time ago. I stayed in the control module for as long as I could, avoiding movement, avoiding decisions, avoiding anything that might trigger it again. But the station doesn't let you stay still forever. Systems degrade, oxygen drops, power fluctuates. Eventually, you have to move. And when I did, I made a decision. I went back to the data core. Back to where it started. If there were answers anywhere, they had to be there. The door responded instantly this time. No delay, no hesitation, like it was expecting me. Inside, the air felt different again. Not still, not dead, active, like something had passed through recently. I secured myself at the terminal and powered it on. No flicker, no slow startup, immediate response. That alone told me something was wrong. Systems here weren't supposed to work this cleanly anymore. I accessed the crew manifest again. 12 names, same as before, same blank endings. But this time, I didn't stop there. I forced deeper access, bypassing restrictions, overriding locks, pushing the system further than I had before. And this time, it let me. No resistance, no warnings, just access. A hidden directory appeared, unlisted, unlabeled, like it had never been meant to be seen. I opened it. The screen paused for a moment, then loaded. One file, single entry, timestamp. Before my arrival. Designation. Subject 13. My hands tightened slightly on the console. There were only 12 crew members. There was never a 13th. I opened the file. The first thing that appeared wasn't text. It was a log. Video. I hesitated, then played it. The recording showed the control module. Same room I was in now. Same layout. Same systems. But different. Everything was fully operational. Bright. Alive. And there were people. Crew. Moving normally. Talking, working. For a moment, it felt normal. Like nothing had ever gone wrong here. Then the audio cut, the image glitched, and one of them stopped moving. Mid-action, completely still. The others didn't notice at first. They continued working, talking. Then another one froze. Then another. Until one of the remaining crew turned. And saw it. Even through the distorted recording, I could see the reaction. Confusion first. Then fear. Then something worse. Recognition. Like they understood what was happening. But too late. The frozen crew member moved. Not naturally. Not like waking up. Slow. Incoordinated. Wrong. Then the feed cut. Replaced by text logs. Rapid entries. Emergency protocols. Containment attempts. Repeated failures. And one line that kept appearing over and over. It doesn't stay in one form. My chest tightened. I scrolled further. More logs. More panic. More failed attempts to isolate it. Then the final entry. Marked by the station commander. Time-stamped minutes before all logs ended. It read. It mimics behavior. Movement. Voice. Memory. It doesn't replace you. It learns you. The more time it has, the more accurate it becomes. We are not dealing with an infection. We are dealing with something that is trying to become us. I stopped scrolling. Didn't need to read more. Because everything finally made sense. The cameras. The movement. The voice. My voice. The missing time. The paths that changed. It wasn't random. It wasn't chaos. It was learning. Adapting. Becoming. And the longer I stayed here, the more it learned. About me. The screen flickered. Changed. Without input. A new line appeared. Fresh. Not from the old logs. From now. Almost complete. I pulled back from the console slowly. Because I understood something now. Something final. This wasn't about survival anymore. It never was. I wasn't being hunted. I wasn't being trapped. I was being studied. Copied. And soon, there wouldn't be a difference anymore. By day 364, I stopped running. Not because I gave up. Because there was nowhere left to go. The station had changed too much. Or maybe, I had. Corridors didn't loop anymore. Doors didn't trap me. Everything was direct, open, accessible. Like the station wanted me to move freely now. Like it didn't need to control me anymore. That was the first sign. The second was the silence. No more scratching in the walls. No more movement in the vents. No more shadows at the edge of vision. For the first time since this started, there was nothing. No presence. No pressure. No feeling of being watched. It should have felt like relief. It didn't. Because I knew what it meant. It wasn't hiding anymore. It didn't need to. I floated through the station slowly, no longer checking corners, no longer watching reflections. There was no point. If it wanted to be seen, it would be. If it didn't, I wouldn't see it anyway. Life support was failing. Oxygen levels dropping steadily. Power barely holding. The systems I had fought so hard to maintain were collapsing one by one. But it didn't matter anymore. Not really. Because something else had stabilized. The signal. It was constant now. Not coming through speakers. Not through systems. Just there. Like a second layer of awareness. Not sound. Not thought. Something in between. And it was clearer than ever. Not broken. Not fragmented. Complete. It didn't try to imitate my voice anymore. It didn't need to. I understood it without sound. Without words. It was communicating directly. And what it was saying was simple. You're ready. I reached the control module again. Same place where this had started. Same place where I thought I had control. The screens were active. Fully powered. No flickering. No instability. Perfect. Cleaner than I had ever seen them. One display showed Earth. Another showed station systems. All stable. All optimal. Better than they had ever been. That didn't make sense. Everything else was failing. But this was improving. I moved closer. Slow. Calm. Not afraid. Because fear didn't belong here anymore. The system display changed. Without input, a status line appeared. Subject 13 synchronization. 99%. I stared at it. Not confused. Not surprised. Just aware. Because I knew what it meant. This whole time, I wasn't just surviving. I was participating. Every movement. Every decision. Every adaptation. It had been learning. Matching. Becoming. And now, it was almost done. I felt something shift inside me. Not physical. Something deeper. Like two patterns aligning. Two versions of the same thing. Becoming one. I turned slowly, not forced, not commanded, just, naturally. And for the first time, I didn't resist, I didn't hesitate, I didn't close my eyes. Because there was nothing left to protect, nothing left to doubt. Behind me, something moved. I saw it, clearly, not a shadow, not incomplete, a form, my form, floating there in the corridor, matching my position, my posture, my movement, perfect. It wasn't distorted, it wasn't wrong, it was me, exactly, every detail, every motion, synchronized. It didn't approach, didn't attack, didn't need to, because it wasn't separate anymore. Not really, it was just the other side, the part that had been forming all this time, the part that was now complete. I felt no fear, no panic, no resistance, only one realization. I hadn't been trying to survive the station. I had been helping it finish. There is a strange calm on the last day. Not peace, not relief, something more final than that. Acceptance. The station is quiet again, but not empty. It never really was empty. It just stopped pretending I needed to understand it. Everything is stable now. Power is stable. Life support is stable. Systems are perfect. Too perfect. The kind of perfect that doesn't happen naturally. I float through the corridors without urgency. Without planning. Without checking corners or watching reflections. There is no point anymore. The station already knows where I am. And I know it knows. The control module lights are steady when I arrive. No flicker. No error. No delay. Every screen is active, as if it has been waiting for this exact moment. Earth is visible again on the main display. Blue, calm, unaware. It looks unchanged. Like nothing ever happened up here. Like I never existed here at all. I take position in front of the console. No restraints. No suit. No backup systems running in the background. Just me. And it. The final system prompt appears without input. Synchronization complete. 100%. I don't react, because there is nothing left to react to. The signal is no longer something I hear. It's not coming through speakers anymore. It's not transmitted. It is present, everywhere. In the walls, in the air, in the structure of the station itself. And inside me, not as influence, not as control, as alignment. A second presence that no longer feels separate. For a brief moment, I remember what fear used to feel like. It feels distant, like it belonged to someone else. The screens shift. One final message appears. Do not resist. But there is no resistance left. There hasn't been for a while. Behind me, I see movement in the corridor. Not approaching, not leaving, just existing. Perfectly synchronized with me. Every step I could take, it takes at the same time. Every motion I consider, it mirrors before I act. Not imitation, completion. I understand now what the logs meant. What the crew tried to warn about. It doesn't replace you. It removes the difference between you and it. Until there is no separation left to measure. The station hums softly, almost like breathing, or thinking, or waiting. I look at Earth one last time. Then the display fades. Not into error, not into shutdown, into something else. A transition. The final log appears. No timestamp, no identifier. Just one line. Orbit continues. And then, silence. Not absence. Completion. If you are hearing this, then the signal has already reached you. The station is still up there. Still moving. Still watching. And sometimes, when it passes over the night side of Earth, it sends something back down. Not a message. Not a transmission. A pattern. Waiting for the next match. The next subject. The next 365 days. Because it never really ends. It only continues.